Hi everyone, my name is Leslie Webble. I've been a product manager for 3 years and a startup founder for two. So today we're going to talk about the SaaS funnel and the basics of a SaaS business model, and then some of my opinions and topics on startups and SaaS. So first, let's take a look at what a SaaS funnel is. I created this diagram to kind of show you an example of what a SaaS funnel is fundamentally doing. First, you have a marketing team's responsibility, where you create lead generation content like LinkedIn, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, or Reddit. Could be a way to inform users of your idea, product, or industry. And then that link that you create takes you over to the website Framer. Then once they get to the website, you'll have a call to action that takes you to the product. And that product is where you have other factors like the user experience, quality, and UI. And then finally, somebody will make a purchase through your app or product, and that has a backend with Stripe, which designers and developers will be mostly responsible for the product and making sure that this aspect of the business works and functions. Let's take a real life example. We're going to look at my lead flow here. And in my lead flow, we have I took a screenshot of my videos. These are thumbnails of some videos I made for the past month. And I use YouTube as my lead flow channel. If you're starting out, I just recommend focusing on one channel. Spreading yourself thin doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But what I use in these descriptions is a bit.ly link, and this bit.ly link tracks CTR, click-through rate. So if I had, 100 users, I just need to type this in real quick. Had 100 users divided by 7, right? That 7 of them went ahead and clicked through that. I had like 0.07% click-through rate, and I'll show you what bit.ly does really quick. So bit.ly just lets you take a URL or a link, and then you're able to create a new link or URL here, and then that link will that will kind of record what's called engagements, or a click-through, that somebody clicked it and then went to that page directly. So I had 7 clicks through that. And then another part is the website. So I recommend people use Framer because Framer is free and it's no code. It'll take you maybe about, it could, if you're familiar with technology, it could take you an hour to kind of use it, but it could take you a week if you're not. But and it's free, and I would recommend that one the most. But I use WordPress just for the plugins and various reasons like that. It just saves me a lot of time when I started. But what you can do if you create that Framer website is embed a Google Analytics link, and that will give you metrics on people landing on your page, event counts, and things like that. And then you also have, this is the WordPress Analytics, your per month views and visitors to the website. And then after that, you will have a call to action on the page. So my call to action is let's chat, right? And I have a bit.ly link there, and it tells me who has clicked that, not who has clicked that link, but how many people have clicked that link. And each of these steps kind of form a conversion percentage, right? I'm like saying 7 clicks divided by 100 for this month. That's what that metric is at, right? And this information helps you kind of optimize this whole flow. And I can also so that gets me at conversion rates. And I can also track the costs. Like my WordPress server is $400, right? Framer will be free, bit.ly's free, Google Analytics free. So you can do that all for free. What's really hard about this is creating compelling content, right? Authentic content that I think the audience could relate with. That's very difficult if you don't have that background or you haven't really put the time in. So what I recommend most startups do is actually partner with somebody, a small or mid-sized channel, and kind of strike a deal with equity and with them, and kind of help them get users to their website through their YouTube videos and create a new channel, and kind of use all the skills that they have made. Because, just because they're not technical or they're not developers doesn't mean their job isn't hard or their job isn't valuable. It really is valuable, and that's what a lot of startup founders miss. In SaaS, I think there's a very developer-centric mentality, a solo developer in a sense. But I think you need to partner yourself with somebody to really get your product off the ground and to get some feedback too. I think a lot of products haven't really been touched by real consumers or seen by real consumers, and that's why they'll never get off the ground. All right, let's move on. So let me zoom out here. So the next part of that funnel is the product. And if they clicked your call to action and they sign into your product and they did the free trial, what you're trying to work on here is focus on your developers, designers should focus on the quality of the UX. And the thing about the quality of the UX is that you can't really improve this without data and user interviews. So what I recommend people doing is, again, embed Google Analytics and also Hotjar. Hotjar is a great tool where it creates this heat map of where people click on your app or website. And it also can track where your mouse goes with a red line. So that's really helpful, a really great piece of technology that I think people are not utilizing to improve their applications and websites. What's going on in your app? You might have onboarding flow, right? You have email screens. Each of these is screens. So like if you think about the Uber app, you type in your email, you type in your phone number, then you get a 4-digit code. You need to make sure the designs of those screens or even your app gets people to the next step. Every step it has a conversion, right? Did the user go from email screen to the next one? And go ahead, redraw this because I had to reshoot the video. Is that what you want to focus on here is user retention, right? So for YouTube videos, if you've made one, is that you get a chart like this. And if your video does really well, you get this hockey stick shape. And that means users stayed and they had retention. They watched the whole thing. So you have all these views here. A really bad video is something like this. And I should know, I have some of them, is that they start here and they go a little bit and then they crash and then there's nothing here. There's no views there like before. And that's the same thing you're going to see in your product if you're tracking with Google Analytics and Hotjar and making those dashboards, which all can be very time consuming. And that's a real problem that you could solve as a startup idea. Here, I just want to make this clear. So what you'll learn very soon once you get this done is that the UX you implement triggers an API call, and that API call will charge you 0.0 cents on a dollar. And the more improved UX you make, the more your server time goes up. And you need to really think about the design and the cost and the quality of that feature, and you're going to make trade-offs. And companies are really bad at making trade-offs because they rely on their gut instinct rather than data and understanding customers, really understanding where they're coming from when they're using it and learning what they can live and what they cannot live without, So quality is really important, not breaking your UI design, your cost per API. But really you just want to focus on this is user retention and purchase. All right, let's talk about market structures. So I'm going to give you a rundown on something you'll learn in, I just want to switch. I don't want to get rid of the marker here. Maybe I should use the marker more often, but. So in competitive analysis, and if you take an MBA course, you'll just learn about this, is that there are things called market structures in microeconomics. There are monopolies, oligopolistic or oligopolies, and monopolistic competition and perfectly competitive firms. If you're a software startup, you're mostly in this perfectly competitive firm. And then you have monopolistic competition. You can think of this as like HubSpot, Salesforce. They dominate such a large percentage of this market that they can kind of raise prices at will without users leaving or going to competitors, right? Because they have something they offer that's so unique. Like Salesforce has such a strong platform and product, they can kind of raise prices as they want, whenever they want. Now, finally, oligopolistic is something like OPEC and the UAE and Saudi Arabia and Qatar. They control oil production and they get to determine and maximize their profits based on the control of production. And A lot of other companies don't get to do this, but it's something to be aware of. And then you have monopolies like Google, Facebook, maybe you can consider that one too. Um, they can they own so much of the share market that they'll do whatever it takes to maintain, 98% of the search share market, right? And no one moved away to Bing or Opera, other browsers, things like that. So, yeah, but just so you know, if you're starting out and you're doing a startup, you're mostly in this perfectly competition where every product is basically a commodity. They look very similar to each other. And what you're trying to do is get to this monopolistic competition. The reason I bring this up is that in software, your only competitive advantage is going to be the user experience and offering really unique features that other people just cannot get anywhere else. And I'll give you an example, like TikTok has a really strong UX competitive advantage, and YouTube and Facebook and then LinkedIn all made Instagram or LinkedIn Reels. They have a Reels feature like TikTok, and they just copied TikTok because they saw how successful it was and tried to take away users from that. But if you go and edit a video on TikTok, it's so much easier than on Instagram Reels. Go do that right now if you haven't tried it, and you'll see what I mean. And clearly, the user experience and the time they put into researching and improving that is superior there, and that's why they've retained so many users and why it's such an addictive platform. All right, let's move on to back to the rest of the flow. So I talked about payment. A lot of SaaS businesses, I noticed they don't really implement this at all as the Stripe backend payment flow. But once you figure out and prove that it's worth paying for, does it make money? Does it save money? Is it a better experience? Does it keep me out of jail? Does it keep me legally compliant? Your users will feel compelled naturally without you influencing them to make a payment. And then that payment is what you record to get an idea of what your annual reoccurring revenue is. That's ARR. And then kind of a conversion percentage per month per cohort. And what I mean is that you'll have 1,000 people coming to your website for that month, or 10,000 hopefully for that month, and then only a small percentage of them, let's say 20 or 100, will make a purchase. That's your kind of conversion metric of how many new leads you're generating, new ARR, right? That's your like new ARR, and I'll talk about this a little bit sooner. But they'll make a payment, and then you'll get paid by Stripe in 30 days. They'll take a fee out and then taxes, and then you'll get revenue from that. And then you'll record that in QuickBook for investors. Now, what do investors value? I think they value net new ARR. So this conversion that I talked about is these new customers you're getting. You're also going to record existing customers buying more stuff. So if they bought like a premium package or they paid for a plugin, that's your expanded ARR. And then turn AR. So customers you lost, like people could be paying for a subscription and then they unsubscribe. That's your, what you lost. And that's what people are focused on, like monthly, how are you performing? And then your yearly, and then your projected growth. And then what is your lifetime value? Because you're going to budget off of the lifetime value. If I pay $100 for a subscription and for 6 years they say subscribe, that's $600 of lifetime value. And then you budget according to your lifetime value, right? So you would only do a marketing spend of like $400 under that 600. You wouldn't do 800, right? So that is how a lot of startups operate, is on the assumption that they can retain the customer for a very long time. That's also another thing you want to learn, is how long customers are returned for, right? So that's really important. So you have lifetime value times 3. It should be greater than your cost of acquisition, and then your months to recover CAC should be 12 to 18. So you should get your money back in 12 to 18 months, right? It shouldn't take 2 years to recover the cost of acquiring someone, which is just common sense. That's your ROI. Let's look at a real life example. So on financial statements of GitLab, they have something called dollar-based net retention. That is just ARR. And this thing specifically, this value, this is like a quarterly value, and it should never go below 100%. It should always be above 100%. So you see 120%, 130%. This value is what investors are looking at because it's telling how fast GitLab is growing and how much future revenue that they're going to really make based on this. And their operating margins, like they're making 90% on margin, 80% on margin if they cut operating costs in the future, which they probably will to make profits again for the shareholders. So this is kind of a real life example of seeing that and this kind of new metric that's coming to investors and things like that. So all right, so let's just do overview. So let's say you paid a marketing influencer and you worked with them and you kind of calculate a cost per sign up and you get this conversion. I had 1,000 visits divided by 20. That gives me my conversion percentage. And then let's say I have one purchase out of 20 and that gives me my conversion percentage on buying, and then your cost per user. So this is, you fundamentally want to track these things, your COGS, revenue, and then these expenses and KPIs, because these will become levers that you can kind of pull. You can put more money into marketing. You could develop a referral system to drive more signups. That might be a cheaper thing. So just thinking about it at a high level of what you can kind of improve or change. And you're going to put a lot of effort into the product development, really. Now, this is more of my opinion section of the video, so you can kind of turn off at this point. I would just say give me a like and subscribe, and check out my ebook. If you can sign up for the newsletter, you'll get a free ebook I'm developing for this year. So this is the formula. Why customers? Why are you building this, and understand your customers? And then, strategy, take some time to develop a 1 or 2 page strategy. Do some competitive analysis. What's your TAM? And what is the action plan? I would say action plan is just this. It's a list of to-do items and assigning somebody a responsibility and then setting a deadline and then executing against that. So you just have kind of a low-level tactics, but a high level, you are targeting these customers, right? And these are your competitors. And sometimes you need to change your marketing message. You need to work on your go-to-market, really. That's what the strategy is going to be for you. A lot of the time is this, right? This is the really hard part that I think a lot of startups struggle with, is they have a lack or understanding. I would watch my product video more on that. And your goal is to develop something we can repeat over and over again. So if I have an app where I order, somebody can take a photo and get the room cleaned or whatever, and they can do that every month or every few times a year, and we get a percentage of that pay, that's repeatable. Does it scale? Can hundreds of thousands of people do it? If not, it can't really scale. You're better to do a B2B business. Make it profitable. That's what I think a lot of people struggle with, is that they don't understand the billing on the cloud servers, and they are not developing the dashboards to automatically just calculate what's the cost of this, like literally pull it out of Azure or Google Cloud to calculate your cost and figure out what is going on there. A lot of mistakes I think businesses make or startups make is this: not learning to embrace conflict. You want to have productive conflict. You don't want to ever attack somebody personally, but you want to kind of have a healthy back and forth and sticking to data and referencing citations or referencing user interviews, right? Like the user said this, and that's legitimate evidence. What is not legitimate is somebody whispering in your ear about something. If my friend said we should change the message to this. Your friend is not this is not their life. Good. It might have a good outside perspective, but really your customers are your best data and evidence. Not keeping emotions and anxiety in check. It's completely normal to have emotions. You'll have up and downs, but you need to be responsible and accountable. talk to a therapist to keep you healthy. Do that. Commitment issues. I think people do not commit to their goal and they get distracted, and that is because of the anxiety that they feel like it's not working right now. They have to stick to it. Too many directions. Yeah, again, they're doing an internship, they're in sports, it's just all over the place. Just get in the lane, stick to the lane. Not collecting data. Again, just using their gut feeling, not collecting the data. Not using hypothesis testing. You could argue you don't need it in the beginning, but I would say once you start building a software product and you have like 10 features, big features, and there's all these little designs and buttons and text, hypothesis testing, Google Analytics, do it. Not critically thinking, just going by your gut. Letting ego get in the way. Lying to others, lying to yourself. This is something many startups have done. Not being on the same page, not sharing information. I'm not saying you can't embellish your idea on your homepage here. I'm just saying don't lie to investors and people working for you and to yourself. If something is not working, just fix it. So you'll lose your way. Go talk to random customers. Their first honest impression is usually a guiding light. There, that's all I gotta say. You're gonna feel lost. Just talk to customers again. It'll ground you. It'll make you realize like what you were missing because you're moving too fast. It's okay to slow down a little bit. Now, these are some book recommendations I make. Don't Make Me Think is for like UX, user design. Give that, just buy it, read it. Just learn how to read. If you're not a reader, do it. Make you smarter. The Mom Test, how to talk to customers. Really, long story short, you want people to be brutally honest with you. Everyone will be nice about your startup idea. Everyone will love it. There's always going, that's a lie, but you want to find people who are just brutally honest with you and say, that's not working. That makes no sense. Crossing the chasm. This is just going to help you understand who your early adopters are. And that, some people are more conservative and pragmatic, and they might not be ready for your new idea. And that's okay. You need to do a lot of work to get to that majority of customers. But that's also worth a read there for your marketing team and yourself. Here's some videos I'll link below. Slidebean does a really great job. I think that channel is completely underrated. This guy from a few years ago, I can't remember his name, but check him out. Some metrics again. I think the only downside is, this is what I want to work on, is making a template that just spells all of these conversions out and kind of just generalize them into a standard glossary or definition, because there's a lot of confusing overlapping terms that have not really solidified, but they'll start to make sense once you study more. So, hey, thanks for watching. I really appreciate your views. If you have any questions for me, just go to my website and contact me. I always respond. I'm working on an ebook this summer, so check out that link below. If you have any feedback, I love that too. Thank you so much. Yeah, subscribe and like too.